A word, or I guess place, that is synonymous with many people's uranium bull thesis would be China. This video is going to discuss the implications of China. Now, China is probably the biggest player in terms of the bull thesis for uranium because they have the ability to make the bull market either really good or if they shift policy and do a few other things, they could make it very boring. I've also heard a number of uranium bear cases, if you will, based around China. People say, well, they have plenty of uranium and that could be a threat. I mean, it has the potential, yes. They say China could sell uranium. Okay, good luck with that. This, to me, makes very little sense. Now, let's say the person who is saying that they could sell was disputing the fact that they were going to grow. Let's say they decided to stop the growth. That's one step that I don't think they're going to do. But another step of selling uranium into an illiquid market to get a little bit of cash, which on a national scale makes very little sense. Why would they do that instead of stopping producing uranium that's costing them $50 a pound? Because to me, that makes much more sense than trying to produce at 50 and sell at 25. That makes no sense. If they stop production, well, then that not only revalues their inventory higher, but makes them stop losing money. So they could sell. Okay, good luck with that. But then there is the point of, well, what if they disappoint on growth? And this is possible. This is the most likely bear case in China. Now, my response to that would be there's a lot of room for them to disappoint on growth and still be a rather bullish scenario for uranium. Now, China has stated that they wanted to start a minimum of 6 to 8 reactors per year over the next 10 years. Well, okay, if they do that, I hope they do. Um, I was skeptical, but I'm slightly less skeptical now because this year they started 8. After a bit of a break, they started 8 new reactors. They started 2 1,400 megawatt reactors and 6 1,150 megawatt reactors, bringing the total to 9,700 MW. And that's to be finished in 2025 and 2026. The ones they started this year, which is, you know, look at the build time for uranium mines and permitting and all that. And it's today. That's today. Now, let's look at what this means. Let's say these reactors finish in 2026. Well, assuming the 3-year front load and assuming 7 years strategic inventory and 500,000 pounds per gigawatt, well, that means the demand from this year is 48.5 million pounds. Now that's 48.5 million pounds of demand before we get to the point where they are then consuming 4.85 million pounds a year. And to those of you that are like, well, 4.85 million pounds, what's that? How many mines do you know of that can produce more than that? Because, yeah, there are some. All right, that many. And if they're going to be doing this every year for 10 years, well, you can look at 2 problems here. One, the initial demand. 2, have a look. Now, there are a number of people who correctly state for now they have more uranium than they need. They have a stockpile. Absolutely. But let's do some math. let's cut down what they start from 9.7 to 8. And then let's look at what it would mean if they start that for every year for a decade, 8 gigawatts. How much extra uranium will they have now? I invite you to make a spreadsheet, do the math, and give me an answer. Feel free, by the way, to use negative numbers for your answers. Because this demand would be 400 million pounds in addition to what they already consume and need. This is 400 million pounds, and that just accounts for strategic inventory and the initial fuel. And not only is this in Tomorrowland for uranium mines, but if you actually add up all the number that just these reactors would use, that's 580 million pounds, because the ones that are completed from year 1 will use 40 million pounds. The ones year 1 and year 2, 80 million pounds. So if you just account for all of these reactors and just look out approximately 15, 16 years in the future, well, then you have just these reactors consuming 580 million pounds. And oh yeah, then demand from just from China would be 40 million pounds higher than it would be including all other reactors except for these. So this is looking at if China grows slower than it did this year. So I don't know what assumptions that you think should be made, but this is a lot of uranium, and this is a lot of uranium in today land in terms of uranium mining. Look, we can be a bit more bearish in our assumptions. That's completely fine, completely rational. It's what I was looking at kind of in the past. Let's say they start 6 per year, and let's say they're each 1,000 megawatts. It's still a lot of pre-demand. If you look, those numbers, you could use those numbers, you get 30 million pounds a year. That's still a lot. And especially when you look at what the production of uranium is and what the ready potential supply is. Even assuming 2026, this demand is coming into play very soon. As I look around, there was a uranium mine that is due to be ramping up in India. It is going to take 7 years to get to full production. 7 years. That's, yes, 2026, luckily. Full production is going to be 1 million pounds. It's, yes, that is 1/3 of what those reactors would use each year. But not all take that long to ramp up. Cigar Lake, which, yeah, it took 7 years to build, but that was because of problems. But the thing that people rarely point out about Cigar Lake is, in addition to taking 7 years to build, which was a mistake, yes, it could have taken 2 or 3, absolutely. But the point is, it then took 3 years to ramp up to full capacity once it was in production. Uranium mines are slow compared to mining, which is slow. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you've made it to this point, I applaud you. If you enjoyed, you might also enjoy the other episodes in this series, and they will be all out eventually, and probably some have been released already. As always, nothing I say is investment advice. This is all just what I'm seeing, how I'm thinking about the sector, and what I view as relevant. So with that, I will leave you there, and have a great day.